And is, first of all, I want to acknowledge country, and that is that we like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we're gathering today, whether here or in the rest of Australia, and we pay our respects to their elders past and present, and we also extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island peoples who are here today. Okay. Good. Keep going. So today, about 18 months ago, we took on a different role in the sense that we precisely who we've worked with for a long time. Hello? Is that? Okay, just hit the forward button. And so as a result, a lot of local governments would clients for precisely transition to us at Inside GIS. I got a marketing consultant from Melbourne involved, a guy with about 20 years experience both here in the UK, a guy called Matt Morgan, who's online today. And I said to Matt, look, we really need to understand the GIS market in Australia from the perspective of our client base. So we can look at how we can best as a company position ourselves for services and really us as a company. Matt did a number of interviews across the nation, some industry research and environmental scans, and these are some of the key insights that came out of that. First of all, everyone is really resource poor. You know, it doesn't matter where you are. It's just the nature of the game that we're in, and that's both, well, in three ways: in respect to people, time, and money. And you know, it's not unusual to step into a lot of organisations, and the GIS person also has a double role: IT or innovation or asset management or planning or some other role. And I think it's fair to say what that causes is a limited capacity for those involved with GIS to get their jobs done. The old saying is there's just not enough oxygen to be able to get things done. And I think one of the reasons today is our attempt, or one of our aims is to try and help you in those circumstances. The other one is that because of that, you know, there's a hunger, there's an appetite always to try and do our jobs better, regardless, and certainly in what we do. And people very much look to the industry or other peers to enable that for them to be able to improve not only their position but the organisations. And obviously we've got a lot of clients within the local government sector, and I know that's something that they're always keen to know what others are doing. As I said, numbers are small in the GIS areas. They're often only half a job, and so I think that assistance, or if they can get us, you know, whether that be from us or from peers, from the industry itself, is something they're often looking at. So really want to encourage you today, for those here, we may look at various other mediums which those online can join in discussions to talk and to engage. Look, we'll be certainly very happy to take questions. We may not be able to answer them today, but certainly we'll very much get back to you. The other important thing here is that the landscape in most environments within our clients, not only local government for that matter, is there's more than one GIS software. So it may not just be precisely, may not be Esri, it may not be Open Space or FME. It could be a range of software. So, and these forums, I'm very keen for them not to be about software. People obviously associate with the Precisely brand, fair enough. But to be honest, we've moved as a company into very much more services across Esri and Open Space for that matter. And we're doing some integration work with councils interstate at the moment with both content management systems and rating and property systems in the local government sphere, with regards to things like ArcGIS Online. Master next door here, we've done work with them in respect to the open space. We won an award with those guys. So I think it's important to look at it as a broader spectrum. And I go back to that first point, is we're here to look at ways of being able to facilitate you guys, increasing your capacity to be able to do your jobs. Okay, that's pretty much me. I just want to put a thank you out, particularly to Andrew. Andrew came to us 10 months ago. He's had 30 years in the IT business, mainly within local government. I met him about 20 years ago when he was working for Trim Software, for those who may know Trim. And he moved down here with a tree change about 18 months ago. He used to run similar groups within Tower Software for the Tower with Trim Software. I was lucky enough to go along to it, some of those functions, and they were great functions. And he was really keen to get this happening. And I really want to thank Andrew for the effort that he's put in. I want to thank our speakers. It's never easy to put a presentation together. And Gillian was mentioning it earlier. She did a presentation here in about 1995. She was just a very young lady. Still very much that case. And, you know, and so it does. It takes time. It takes effort. And I really, really appreciate it. I put out to those speakers and anyone who wants to do a talk, what we do is if you have a charity, we actually will make a $100 donation to that charity. If you don't, one of our designated charities in Inside GIS is Rare Cancers Australia. So both speakers have offered to put a donation to those. So we'll be quite happy going to be giving $200 to Rare Cancers Australia. It's a way, unfortunately, these days with gift registers and all those sort of things, the opportunity of actually providing something has pretty much gone. So we look at this as a way of saying, hey, if you want to do it, you know, you're actually going to be doing it for something a little bit bigger. So please keep in that mind, because we really are keen to have you guys share your stories. I want to thank Parnika here, who's with us. We'll be presenting a couple of times today. Parnika is been with us 3 years now, first time in front of an audience. So, you know, I'm sure she's going to do a good job. So just keep smiling, Parnika and everybody else, because I'm sure it's going to happen. Apart from that, enjoy today. Don't forget there is lunch at the end of the day to, you know, before you leave, so you can consider chats. And we're certainly interested in any suggestions or comments that you come back to us. But that's pretty much me. So enjoy it, folks. Thanks, Rob.
I'll hand over to Paul Markey from Sorell. So, Paul Markey, I work for Sorell Council as their asset and GIS and asset information officer. And today I'll be talking about how we got help from Insight GIS and Connect to transform our waste collection service. So firstly, a bit of background on the project. Started back in 2016, so quite a while ago, but we're still using this. Council recognized some problems with the way we were collecting green and hard waste. Our customer business support staff were receiving increasing calls from residents, and they were poorly equipped to provide answers on the waste collection service. Another common problem that we were having were that customers would call up and complain that their waste had not been picked up. And according to the contractor, there was often a valid reason for this, such as it was not put out on time or exceeded size limits. But as there was no evidence documenting the reason of missed pickup, the contractor would have to be sent back to revisit the site for collection at council's expense. So Council had recently implemented the Connect mobile data collection platform for our fire abatement program, and they thought that this would be a good solution for the waste collection service. Initially, the project was set up manually every Friday. The waste bookings were collected through an online booking system, and these had to be matched to our property records and mapped spatially before being imported into Connect. This manual process took our GIS officer roughly an hour's time each Friday and relied heavily on council admin, so we ran into problems when we had absences from specific staff. So we soon got Insight GIS involved to automate the process, which Jerry is going to talk about a bit later on. Connect's user-friendly platform allowed for quick training and uptake from our waste contractor and his crew. After equipping their team with iPads and running them through the navigation and data collection using the custom forms, they were soon collecting all the extra information needed by our CBS staff. Using the Connect forms pick lists and tick boxes, the driver can quickly and easily record information on the waste collection and take a photo where required. The new platform and project works so well that now when we encounter any issues, that means the project didn't load properly, we often get a call Monday morning from the contractor asking if we can fix it for them so they can complete their pickup. They're very reluctant to revert to their old methods of working off a printed spreadsheet. Another added benefit is Connect's spatial mapping of the properties on the bookings. The visual representation of the map of pending, completed, and missed bookings makes it easy for the driver to navigate and choose the quickest route. Connect's GPS capability also follows the driver and updates the map as they navigate. Customer business support staff at Council can now monitor in real time the progress of the collection and are in an informed position to respond to resident phone inquiries relating to their collection. Each missed collection has photographic evidence, and at a glance, the team can revert to the photo and tell the resident what the issue may have been with their collection. This has cut down significantly on costly return collections. And as mentioned before, the setup is now completely automated. Admin time required from Council has been reduced to 5 minutes on a Friday to check the confirmation email and, if necessary, add any mismatched properties. Residents now benefit from a quicker, more efficient waste collection service with fewer missed collections. If needed, they can speak to Council CBS staff and receive information on the progress of waste collection, including a more accurate timing of pickup for their property. So all of the CBS staff at Council have access to the Connect platform, and they can pull it up to respond to a phone call and see where the driver is in relation to the property and what waste has been picked up. Another benefit is that customers now have the ability to leave specific notes and comments for the contractor regarding collection instructions, which also adds to the efficiency of the collection. And as you can see from the comments, there are quite a few happy customers. So now I'll hand over to Jury, who's going to talk about Insight GIS's involvement in the project.
Thanks, Bob. Everyone, Jury Bradshaw. I'm a senior consultant at Insight GIS. I think I've been here about 16 years now. Must be something like that. I wanted to have a little chat about how we can use Connect and FME together to really streamline data flow in and out of Connect and bring it into the organisation to cut down on that sort of manual task of loading that data and really enable the organisation to leverage Connect through FME. All right, so FME has a number of ways that it can talk or be used in conjunction with Connect. The simplest one of those is just pre-processing or post-processing data from Connect. It's quite important to get your data in the right form and to have a consistent consistency in that data. So using FME to do that is taking that away from the sort of desktop operation where you can sort of do different things every time and come up with different results. By automating that process through FME, not only are you saving time, but you're also getting a consistent result. So you get a consistent user experience within FME. So that could be something just as simple as creating the data sets that are then uploaded to Connect manually. The next step, or the next upgrade from that, is using the command line tools that come with Connect, and FME can call those command line tools. So you can actually set up FME job to pre-process some data and then call the command line tool, which will load that processed data up into the Connect platform, and vice versa. You can download data from the Connect platform and then post-process that data. And that could be a complete loop. You could download the data, process it, and then re-upload the changes that you might need to do. And then the final integration point, I guess, is full sort of API integration where you can do feature level updates through FME, and that allows you to do a real live integration where you are changing data within the Connect platform as those records are changing within the organisation. So you might be able to trigger work orders, pushing them out every few minutes so that the outdoor teams can actually see up-to-date data that's happening on the day rather than working on data that might be a day old or something like that. You can also retrieve data from the API, so on a per record basis. If you just want to know information about a particular record, you can pull down the status of that feature and then do whatever you need to in FME, push the changes back up to Connect. But what I really wanted to talk to today is about how we help Sorell streamline the process that Paul's just talked about. So Sorell came to us and they wanted some assistance with reducing the time that they were putting into this task, and also that core dependency on those staff, because I think the original time this happened, Paul was on leave or was going on leave, and they were asking us, could we sort of fill in for him while he was away? And we thought, hang on, this is a perfect opportunity to move this into a more automated solution that doesn't rely so heavily on those staff. Still needs a little bit of oversight, just make sure everything's ticking along. But we're taking this from an hour job down to a 5-minute sort of QA task on a Friday, which is, you don't want to be sitting there at Friday at 4:45 thinking, I've got to get this done because the rubbish is going to be picked up at 5 a.m. on Monday. So it's really good to try and to automate this. So we also identified some potential benefits of using FME because we can sort of do a little bit smarter matching. If something fails on a property ID match, we can fall back to an address match. We can do that in MapInfo, but it just adds more and more steps to that process where you can fully automate that process. The initial setup of this was roughly a 2-day implementation. There was a fair bit to get our head around with the booking system and how that worked and the scheduling. The FME side of it was probably the smaller part once we sort of got our understanding of all the inputs and outputs. It sort of came to around 2 days. All right, so just a little look at what this looked like previously in the old version before we automated it. It was very much a MapInfo and Connect Manager update process. As Paul mentioned, it was a job that took roughly an hour on a Friday. So the booking website would send out an email at 1:30 on Friday. So that's giving you, a few hours if you're lucky to get this job done. The GIS officer would then download that booking, which would be a CSV full of property IDs and the booking information, and they would load that into MapInfo, run some queries to join that to the cadastral data so that they had spatial representations of those bookings, and then load that data up into Connect, clone the previous pickup form, and then replace all the data sets within that pickup form with the new versions. Now, this had a few problems. Firstly, it relies on someone being there on those last few hours on a Friday, which is not always possible. People are sick, people are on leave, you've got other things that you need to get done. So that was the first issue. The second issue was the matching of property IDs, was sometimes the booking system might have slightly outdated property IDs, and when you try and match that to the current cadastre or the property, that doesn't match, and you've got to go back and try and fill those in manually. So by using other matching criteria, falling back to an address, things like that, we could try and limit that as much as possible. There still is a little bit, if there are missing addresses, you can jump into the Connect Manager and just draw the properties in pretty quickly. But like I said, it's a 5-minute job to add 1 or 2 of those. And finally, we ended up with a whole lot of Connect projects. Every time it duplicated, every week, you'd go in there and Connect was just getting full of all these data, which just meant you had to go through and clean it up and archive it. So there was a bit of a data management problem there as well. So we thought, yep, let's rethink how this all works and see if we can automate it with FME. So FME gives us a lot of power. We can pull the data directly from the booking website via an API. So FME just reaches out to the booking website and grabs that data. There's no email required for that anymore. The data is automatically downloaded and archived from previous collections, so that there's a history, but it's cleaned up and removed from the Connect application, so that it keeps Connect nice and clean, but it's sitting there on the file system if we need to go back and refer to it later. The data sits there for 2 weeks, I think, after the bookings happen, so it's not like there is a 2-week window for people to call up and have issues, and the front of house staff or the CBS staff to answer those before we remove that. But before the next collection happens, we clear all that out and just keep it really nice and clean. The automated data joining, like I said, property IDs to cadastre and potentially address, and then using the command line tools to then upload this data into Connect. So FME basically runs and just does all the joining, downloads the data and pushes the new data up into Connect without any user interaction. So I'm not going to go too deep into how this all works, but I'll just talk through the FME jobs that we're using here. So the first job is just a simple job that checks the schedule. So it checks an Excel spreadsheet that's stored at council to see whether there is a scheduled pickup for the following Monday. So this job runs every Friday, checks the spreadsheet and says, is there a job on Monday? And then does some action based on that schedule. So it might just email the GIS officer and say nothing scheduled this week, and that's a good reminder to them to check the schedule if there's a problem. Also, if it doesn't find a match, it will send warning emails to let them know that there are problems there. And if it finds that there is a schedule, it will run the next job, which will go and do the Connect integration piece. So this is the first part of the Connect FME job. So the first box there, the yellow box on the far left, is the archiving of data. So we're using the command line interface there to go and fetch all the current data sets that are in Connect and just download them to the local GIS system for future reference. The next part we do here is we're starting to do the automatic data matching. So you can see there's a joiner there in that next blue box there. That joiner actually reads the CSV data directly from the booking site API over HTTP. So that pulls down the CSV with all the bookings. The next step we go down is we go down through those 2 feature merges. Those feature merges basically match the property boundaries first on property ID, and if that fails, it tries to match on address. And finally, if it doesn't match on either of those, there's a process there where it builds a little report email and sends that back to the GIS administrator with a list of all the properties that weren't matching between the 2 systems, so they can manually fix those. For all properties that do match, it writes the data back out to file system and then passes it on to the next step, which is updating Connect. So this is the next stage here, and we just have 2 command line interface calls, basically one that loads the new booking data into Connect, and the other one that resets the collection form ready to go. If either of those tasks fail, another email is generated and the job is terminated, which feeds back up to the previous job, allowing us to see that there was an issue with the FME process. So really, that is the process, the full process in a nutshell. Runs on a Friday afternoon and should only take a couple of minutes each Friday to double check that it's all uploaded. So I don't know if we've got time for questions, Andrew. Yep. Questions?
He's a contractor, and yeah, he runs a small business, and I think that's one of the reasons why council have been able to keep up with doing the fortnightly green waste is, yeah, it's the combination of the collection methods that we've set up, and then his small crew, and yeah, he gets around in a couple of days and picks up everybody's.
So you just got a tab up with a map, little map.
Yeah, he's got 2 drivers, and they've both got iPads, and off they go. But yeah, it's funny, they're very reluctant to, if Connect isn't working for them, they don't want to do it. Yeah.
How's the public accessing it? Just through the council website, or?
Yeah, just through the website, the council website booking. So they type in their address, and then that goes off into the PHP database creates the booking, which is then emailed every Friday.
Yeah, so the booking's going to there's a booking website that was already existed before we came along, and we've just leveraged that existing technology there. There was some talk about this only being a short-term, solution, so we didn't want to redesign the whole front end just for that 1 year. But we're talking about that again now. Yeah.
Any reason why it's not in a database rather than a spreadsheet?
Good morning, all. My name is Parnika Puri. I've been working for Insight GIS from past 3 years. So I've been tasked to present on data management. I thought it would be good to include a project that I recently did, as I could easily correlate the issues I had in regards to data management. So today I'm going to talk about data management and its importance. So today we will cover a small overview about the project I did, data management issues, impacts of it on both the parties, what solution we had, a small conclusion, and feel free to ask any questions at the end of this presentation. So just to give you all a bit of an overview, this was a last-minute project, and it was quite urgent as the client that we were working for had meeting with the council in regards to their proposal. And the person who was working for them, their GIS person, was leaving the job. So they asked Insight GIS to help them with the mapping side of their project. The project was time constrained, but I have to keep one thing in the back of my mind, and I know Rob will laugh at me now. It's Insight GIS motto: to give the best solution and keep the client happy, no matter what the time frame is. So though it's time constraining, I have to give my best shot to this project. Now, moving forward, my first question to you all: the map you are looking at the screen represents play spaces and associated facilities in entire Moonee Valley, Victoria. As you can see, there is a lot of information on this map. By looking at the legend on the right-hand side. So my question to you all is, how does this map look? See, it's looking good, isn't it? It's busy, I know, but it's showing all the information, I guess, if we dig a bit deeper and zoom in. Let's move on to next slide. And next question. How long do you think 32 similar maps like this one would take to create, provided data is already created and I just need to tick on the layers on their software and create maps? Any guesses? 32 maps?
Half an hour.
Yes. Okay. Okay, let's sum it up for you. So longest it should take, I would say 7 days. Happy? 32 maps, feedback, changes. Cool. Now let me tell you, and it will be a shock to you all, that it actually took me 7 weeks to create these maps. Yes, more than a month. Oh, don't think that Inside GIS delayed it. No. We did provide them initial maps for their meeting, but then we later progressed with further changes. So what could have gone wrong that it took me 7 weeks? Let's look at some data management issues I had. So the first one is incomplete data. Second, missing data. Third, mixed formatting. Fourth, broken workspaces. Fifth, unknown versioning with multiple copies. Sixth, blank data sets. Seventh, naming convention. Now, let's just dig a bit deeper into all these issues and know what happened and what did we learn from these issues. So the first one is incomplete data. Say, for instance, there should be 107 place spaces in entire Moonee Valley area. However, only 97 place spaces were in record. Others were in their inventory, but they did not have spatial features for it. And it's not just one layer that we are talking about. There were several other layers that were same, that is incomplete data. So what do we learn from this issue? So we learned that data validation is very important. It's always important to make sure that your data is correct in order to provide accurate data. Moving on to next issue, that is missing data. So the map I just showed you did not just talk about play spaces. It also talked about associated facilities with the play spaces. Say, for instance, does the play space has barbecues? Does it has toilets? Does it have shelter? All sort of associated facilities that we can think of. When we received the data, we found that majority of the associated facilities were missing. They were in records, but they don't have any spatial layers to represent on the map. When we had meeting with the client, we were informed that their GIS person had already created all the layers. So it made us believe that no data validation is required. Everything is there and we just need to create maps. However, it was exactly opposite. So what do we learn from this issue? We learned that it is always worth confirming that all the layers are there which are required to create the maps. Moving on to next issue, that is mixed format. Some of the data set that we received was in shapefile, some in map info tab format, some in Excel spreadsheet, geo package. So we received all sort of mixed data format. Hence, it took me additional time to convert all these data sets into one consistent format in order to make it work smoothly. So, what do we learn from this issue? We learned that always try to keep your data set in one consistent format. Moving on to next issue, that is broken workspaces. As I told you that it was a last-minute project and the client informed us that their GIS person had already created QGIS workspaces and loaded in all the layers that are required to create maps. So you just need to tick on the layers and create maps out of it. And it was ideal. It will save us time. However, the original workspaces that we received were mostly broken. and had incorrect file paths. And it was quite difficult to link them back. The reason behind that was the data was sitting on their GIS person desktop. And to make it even harder, their GIS person left the job. So they had to include IT, get the access to the laptop to their GIS person, and then provide data to us. Please remember, I talked about time constraint. I'm going to create maps. I'm missing data. I have incomplete data. And the workspaces that I was relying on that I just need to tick on and create maps are broken. So what do we learn from this issue? We learn that always save your data in a logical spot so that it does not affect the associated workspaces with it. Moving on to next issue, that is unknown versioning with multiple copies of data sets. Some of the data sets we received, we found that there were multiple copies of it with no defined structure. Since they had no defined structure, it was quite hard to judge which is the latest data set. There was no dating, no versioning of the data sets. Hence, took additional time to understand which data is the latest one. And it's important for all of us. It's important for me. I am working on this project, and I know if I'm making a multiple copies of the data sets, which is the latest. What if I come after 6 months to the same project? It will take me time to get which is the latest data sets if I haven't versioned it correctly. So what do we learn from this issue is always make sure if you are making multiple copies of your data sets, make sure to version them correctly. Moving on to next issue, that is blank data. This one was quite different from previous issues as we received the spatial layers, but we found out they were blank. They were literally empty. They did not have spatial layers. They did not have attribute features or spatial features. Say, for instance, if we receive data in map info format, we were able to see all the 4 files, that is .id, .dat, .tab, and .map, assuming there should be data in it, but they were empty. It affected us internally as well, as we underestimated the client in regards to data, because due to urgency of this project, we verified few layers, they were working fine, and we assumed that their GIS person has already done the work and it's all ready to go. It's then when we realized when we started creating the maps that the data set was blank. So what do we learn from this issue? That if you are trying to making a copy of the data sets, make sure you copy it with correct parameters, my bad. And always make sure once you made the copy of the data set to open it on the software and check if it's correct, if it's bringing the desired information or not. Last but not the least issue, that is naming convention. There was no appropriate naming convention of the data sets when we received them. So it was quite hard to judge the layers by just looking at the name, what they were actually showing. Again, additional time required to dig into each of the layers and understand what they were actually representing. So what do we learn from this issue is correct and appropriate naming is very important when we are working with such a large number of data sets. Now, all these issues, they impacted both the parties, majorly impacting first, delayed in project timelines. Now, let me tell you this thing. The project was handed over to us a day before Easter, and it was supposed to be submitted after the Easter break ends, that is during that week, closing of business of Friday. And I remember that we received the workspaces and taped all the data after closing of business of Thursday, that is around 6 to 7 p.m. Since it's Easter, everyone took Tuesday off. So we just got like 3 days to create maps. But it was achievable. They informed us that workspaces are there, layers are there, just tick it on and you will create maps. However, due to above mentioned issues, it got delayed. As I mentioned previously, we did provided them maps for the internal meeting, but all these time to finish this project was 7 weeks. Second, that's additional cost for both parties. So initially, when cost estimation was done for this project, it was purely for map production only. We didn't consider spatial data creation or data management. However, as the project progressed, the objective of it changed completely and hence the cost. Impact on timelines for other projects. Internally for us, since data creation wasn't considered when taking the project on board first, as it gets complicated, the time for us for this project impacted, and similarly, it impacted to all other projects that we were working on. Now, I think I have talked a lot about issues. How we resolve it. So, first important thing in any project is outlining the issue. Addressing the issue is the first key component of any project. We made the list of layers that were incomplete or that were missing. We did have some solution in the back of our mind while we were talking to client. Second key component is communication. Communication is very important. Second most important, I would say, in the project. One should be transparent with our client. So we inform them that we are missing this data. This data is incomplete. And then we provided them some solution. Another important thing we did, we asked our client to request for extension, as it's always better to provide correct information on the map with good looking maps by taking extra time rather than providing incorrect information on the map just to meet the deadlines. Once everything was sorted, then we reviewed all the data sets against the source record. And then we made decision, either we will recreate the data sets or we will fix the existing spatial data sets. And trust me, when I say recreating, I end up creating 20 different spatial layers for this project. But I was confident enough that now the data is correct in terms of both information and location. Once we did the creation side of it, we moved to data validation. We again checked the records against their source record, and then using Google imagery, satellite imagery, we used and checked the location of the data. And finally, we moved to large stage, that is to create data sets and maps. So, conclusion. I strongly believe that data management plays a crucial role in any project. Managing the data properly, it increases the efficiency and helps in making informed decisions. Honestly, for this project, this could have been completed early in the time frame if their data was managed properly. And additionally, if their data was managed properly and was up to date and correct, the cost of this project would have been significantly low than what it turned out in the end. Thank you. Do we have time for questions?
Just wanted to ask about the role of metadata. Was there any metadata provided when you created the layer that you created?
Yes.
Create metadata records that go back to them?
Yes. So we were provided an inventory from the client. So there were like 107 play spaces with everything, every information. So it was an Excel spreadsheet with address and coordinates. And then we jumped on and started creating those data sets. I don't.
Just on this and what Arnica is about the third project related to this. So we've looked at a company involvement. It's a planning organisation at leisure, well known across Australia. They work in that area. This is all so simple in a lot of ways, but we've done not only projects, particularly in Melbourne, along this lines and in other parts, where these issues consistently come up. You can sort of say, yeah, we know. But I think what Arnica's shown here is by not getting these foundations in place, how much time they can actually spend.
Yes.
I think what you've done really well is quantify that and the effect it then has on the organisation. So we keep repeating this message, I know, but I think you've
been able to articulate that very well for us. Thank you.
I hope so. Thank you. Yep.
Okay, you mentioned that there were two parties involved, the At Leisure and Moonee Valley. How did everyone negotiate that issue that you turned up when the project started of all these problems that you found as soon as you kicked off? They did have an original deadline
Yes.
a week after the data was originally supplied.
Well, we dealt directly with At Leisure that we were working for. We didn't had any, communication with Moonee Valley. So I think I had meeting with Sally. I actually showed her, you want to show these things on the maps, but they are not there. So I think she understood and she was able to negotiate the extensions because her motto was the same. That is, it is better to provide correct information rather than coming, going forth and come back just to fix all those issues. So she was aware of that. So I think she had margin maybe with the deadline. She told us another deadline, but that's what happened.
Just for that party, I think, Andrew, what happened there was that when the project first came to us, they had about 7 or 8 different things that they wanted to present at the council meeting, and what we did through communication was prioritise what was essential for that meeting. Worked really hard to get those ready for that meeting, and then the other maps that we didn't have ready for that were the ones that had deficiencies in the data, and we then prioritised what was done in terms of the rest of that time frame.
Any more questions? Oh, thank you.
Oh, this one?
Yeah. Michael Buckley from Dorset Council, followed by Parnica again.
Excellent. Well, still good morning. Morning, everyone. So my name's Michael Buckley, Dorset Council. I've been with Council since October last year. I'm joined by Daniel, my Works Coordinator. So today we're sort of presenting a project that we've engaged inside GIS to. We've currently got a reasonably large civil infrastructure network. So I'll kick off with the purpose. Forgive me, I can't read that screen, so I'll use it. So the purpose, I suppose, today is just to share ideas, previous experience, and discuss the management of assets within a maintenance environment by capturing condition and risk of assets against set intervention levels. Forgive me for that statement. That sounds very polished. It's not meant to. So introduction, I suppose Council currently at Dorset has a paper-based system to undertake proactive inspections of civil infrastructure, scheduled annually during winter period, which is a common thing amongst councils. The total length of our road network is 685 kilometres with a breakdown of 246 kilometres of sealed road and 439 of unsealed. The civil construction staff at Dorset are a highly competent team, Daniel's team, completing large capital works projects efficiently, cost effectively across roads, bridges and drainage infrastructure. The Dorset Road Asset Management Plan identifies intervention levels and levels of service to be able to provide a safe municipal road network. The performance measure process and performance targets, or intervention levels, as some people call them, are implemented from the Department of State Growth. So that's what's been adopted at this council. Council currently has 3 sources of truth that feed into our maintenance program. And that are scheduled efficient maintenance civil infrastructure across the network. So obviously one is customer service requests. We've got a very large network, and by no means it seems to be a shock to some customers that we don't inspect every kilometre of road every day. So we've got internal staff knowledge. We've got staff that lives within the municipality that provide feedback. We've got common areas of knowledge that are prone to all sorts of issues, whether it's wet or dry, and that type of stuff based on truck movements. And obviously we've got the paper-based proactive inspection data. So the problem is currently the current proactive inspection process is paper-based and lacks the flexibility to easily identify and locate the specific infrastructure that is out of intervention. Multiple staff carry out the inspections of the network. A high percentage of maintenance is purely reactive and based on customer requests or staff knowledge. There's no transparency to council or an audit committee, for example, as to the overall amount of the network that is out of intervention, requiring maintenance at any one time. And obviously an unsafe road network, loss of efficiency at the scheduling level and potentially decreasing the useful life of some unsealed roads. The solution, what we're working on, is a cloud-based infrastructure management platform that has the ability to easily capture out of intervention works against an agreed set of intervention levels using an in-field device, mobile or tablet. Capturing data using simple and easy to use forms that can incorporate all of the standard elements that we'd require, such as text, numbers, dates, times, as well as more specialised elements, including photos, comments, and obviously GPS attributes. This data can be exported to use in Excel or spatially, depending on what's required. Obviously, we're looking for a desktop version to allow better visibility by our supervisor. That'll be able to provide proactive planning in scheduling of priority works, reporting, and obviously budget developments moving forward based on a year of inspections. And also allow council to reduce costs, create efficiencies, and deliver better services, and provide a safe road network while minimising risks. Obviously, designated officer is one of the solutions with an updated position description to carry out the scheduled inspections of the network over a 12-month period. I suppose that one's based on experience for me. Multiple people inspecting, but there's not one owner. Probably we all reflect on that. Having someone that's consistently inspecting against intervention levels, they start to build a bit of knowledge and understanding and comparing things and prioritising risk. Risk, by no means we're looking towards a risk matrix with every inspection or every pin we drop. That would be impractical, and we still want the flexibility for an experienced civil construction, civil maintenance foreman to be able to assess based on risk, whether it's out of intervention location, near a school, those type of things. A separate document to underpin the process, identify program inspection timeframes, road hierarchy, defect response times, night audits. I did write down this one just to ensure reflectivity and effectiveness of signs and guideposts. I suppose at the moment at Dorset, upon reflection, our intervention levels sit in an asset management plan, which is not right or not wrong, but there's not an overarching document to really talk to these sort of timeframes, how quickly we're going to fix a road depending on its hierarchy, what are the transparent agreed intervention levels, and other infrastructure. We're focusing on sealed and unsealed roads, but obviously we want to quickly push into other aspects. So the other one is the ability to add data sets and use a platform for other inspections. Obviously we want to migrate reasonably quick, and I can reflect on some conversations already listening to the Sorell example that once you get a good practical solution, it tends to change and evolve, and the guys that don't want to use a platform are the first ones suggesting improvements and how to make things better. So that was one thing as well. But that's it for me for questions. As I said, I'll let yourself talk to what's currently been built so far. But as I said, I do have some examples if anyone wants to reach out in some of the underpinning documentation or thoughts and network. Daniel and I are here for that specific reason, but very excited about the platform moving forward, where we start and where we go from there. So, okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
I'll hand it off.
Thank you, Michael, for the background. Hello, all again. I'm going to talk about Connect in this presentation. Today, we will cover what Connect is, an overview of road inspections, road defects, user forms, scheduling and history, a small conclusion, and feel free to ask any questions at the end of this presentation. Just all to let you know that this is still work in progress and is at first stage of its implementation. Now, as Michael said, Insight GIS is helping Dorset Council in effectively capturing and managing their road infrastructure using a digital platform known as Connect. Now, what Connect is? Connect is location-based field data collecting app. It helps in creating maps, smart forms, and custom workflows. Having said that, creating maps, it's not just the layers that are present in the Connect. You can also add other GIS layers from other softwares into Connect and create maps out of it. Talking about smart forms are designed in such a way that they will help in capturing the required information. They can be customized. Customized, that means we are working on road infrastructure at the moment, and I can straight away think about 3 different forms for this single project that we can use. So first form will be administrative purposes, second for inspection purposes, and third for maintenance crew. For administrative purposes, the person who will be sitting looking at their desktop and monitoring everything, I might give them permissions to edit, read, and delete the data. I give them permissions to assign users and whole bunch of other permissions. For the person inspecting the roads, I might give them permissions for edit, read, and delete, but I may not give them permissions to assign any users. For maintenance crew, I might be able to hide a lot of information from them, as all they want to know is where the defect is, what road name it is, and what defect category it lies. I don't want to ask them to delete anything from the road infrastructure, so I might not give them permissions to edit or delete. I just give them permissions to read. So one project, 3 different forms. Similarly are the custom workflows. They are similar like smart forms. They are customized in such a way that they help in capturing the required information. Connect helps in collecting, analyzing, and processing real-time data regardless of network coverage. Having said that, let's say you are inspecting in the middle of nowhere where there is no data reception, you will still be able to capture the information using Connect. As I am aware that Dorset had a lot of road infrastructure where there is no mobile reception. So I think Connect will be able to help solve this issue. Then it reduces the paper-based processes as it is a digital platform. Therefore, it will increase the efficiency. Connect has 2 platforms, a desktop and the mobile user platform. Both the platforms are quite easy to use. They are user-friendly. And for this demo, we are using the desktop version. As you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, that's how the Connect will appear when you open it on the desktop. And for further slides, I just wanted to mention that Michael provided us Dorset Road infrastructure that we will be using to explain how we are setting up things for Dorset Council. So looking at above all these capabilities, we opted for Connect for this particular project as it helps in meeting the requirement, as Michael asked, that is scheduling the inspection, capturing the inspections, and capturing the defects and keeping the history of it. Moving forward, let's see. So the first one is road inspections. Let's say you are inspecting a road and you believe that it is fine, there are no defects on the road. Now to complete the inspection, you will simply click on the road polygon. Road inspection form appears, as you can see on the right-hand side of the screen. It's pre-filled as it's picking up the data from the base data. So just check if the information is correct, road name is correct, inspected date is correct, and hit save. As soon as you hit save, the road you inspected will change color to green. This will also help you in tracking which roads are inspected and which are not. So the green color roads represent the inspected road and the yellow ones represent the non-inspected road. Moving forward, let's say when you are inspecting the road, you find a defect on the road. So what you will do to add a defect, you simply go to add feature. As you can see on the screen on the bottom side, click on add feature. It will give you a pointer, the black one which is highlighting at the center, to locate where the defect is. You drop the point of defect, and as soon as you drop the point, defect form appears. As you can see on the right hand side of the screen, it will have some of the information pre-filled, such as road ID and road name. And then you might need to enter other information for each defect, such as defect status, if it's new, repaired, or safety hazard, if it's what defect type it is, what defect category it is, if you want to take any photos or any notes for maintenance crew, and hit save. Once you hit save, you will see that the color of defect you added will change color depending on the status that you are putting in. If it's a new defect, it will be orange. If it's repaired, it's green. And if it's a safety hazard, then it's a red dot. You all must be wondering why the repair defect is still there. It is there because it is carrying the history of what the defect was and what category it was in. So you can click on it and you'll get the information. Talking about user forms, that's how it will look on mobile application. So these are the forms. There are two forms at the moment, that is road inspection forms and road defects form towards the right of the screen. Please note, these forms are created in such a way that least amount of input user is required. We understand that when you are inspecting, you don't want to go and scroll whole form and fill in the information. So we try to capture minimum information from the person who is inspecting. As you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, for road inspection, you do not need to enter any information. It will pick up everything from the base data once you click on the road polygon. You just need to check if it's correct or not and hit save. For defects, you might need to enter defect status, type, and category. Apart from that, road ID, road name, who inspected it, when it is inspected, it will all be pre-filled once you click on the road to add the defect and hit save. Last portion was scheduling and inspection. Once we have a set parameter for inspection frequency and inspected date, then it will be just a matter of querying the data. For this demo, I queried the data to show me the roads which are recently inspected within 3 weeks of time frame. As you can see on the screen, the blue color polygon represents the road which are recently inspected within 3 weeks of time frame, and the yellow ones are the ones whose inspection is expired or they need inspecting. For history, if you click on that blue polygon, as you can see on the bottom right corner of the screen, it is giving me history of the road. So it's Alfred Street. It was inspected on May 16th by Inside GIS. So if we keep on scheduling and recording the inspection, we will be able to build the history. And for scheduling purposes, once the user logged in, it will refresh the query and it will highlight the roads which are inspected and non-inspected. So the blue ones will be inspected recently and the yellow ones that need inspection. Therefore, I strongly believe Connect can help in resolving the issue that Michael asked for, as it helps in managing and tracking the data sets. It's not just the data set, just the road data sets that we are talking about. Any assets that require inspections and scheduling, we can use them in Connect to manage them. Say, for instance, trees, speed management, mountain bike tracks, etc. Third is very important point. It will be a ground truth. Let's say you get query that, there is a defect on the road. You might go back and check into the history. Is it a new defect or is it, pre-defect which has been fixed and that reoccurred? So it will be a ground truth for in so many ways. And last, you can export the data, as Michael asked that we should be able to export the data. On the screen, you can see we can export it in MapInfo tab file, Esri shapefile, GeoPackage file, GeoJSON, CSV, KML file, which can further be used to create reports, maps, etc. Thank you. Any questions? Okay.
Into asset management programs like Maximo or things like that? How does it work? Like, we've got an asset management program called Maximo, so we were going to use that as our mapping application with that. Can it interact with those sort of programs, or how would you get it to interact with those?
I could probably answer that one. That would be a perfect example of where you use the APIs. You probably use something similar to FME. It depends on how live you want that integration to be, whether it's sort of a uploading, tickets overnight and then kick them off over the day and they sort of get pulled back down. You can do that with CLI and FME, but you're really looking towards the API sort of level there. And that would allow you to sort of keep the two systems in sync. Yeah.
Okay.
Connect. Tell us more about that. Who makes that? How would you say?
Well,
So Connect is done by GDM Global, and depending on what you're after, it's around about 530 a user. Talk to me about it afterwards if you want to look at it. We've got a demo available where we, or a trial, I should say, rather than a demo, where we are working with GDM GDM Global for a 2-month free of charge trial where we put about up to half a day's worth of consulting effort in to help it set up as a POC for you, proof of concept. Sorry, I use lots of acronyms. So yeah, it's quite affordable. It's not cheap by any means, but it's not expensive either. Depending on how many users you need to have using.
It's just like a web mapping platform and forms, basically.
Sort of, yeah. It's field data capture. So it's really for capturing and data in the field using spatial information from maps. Yeah.
Just building on that a little bit, that I'm appreciative talking to the guys yesterday. The presentation is there's a number of these apps out there, whether it be Fulcrum, Esri across there's sustainable products as well. Is that what we're showing here is really the process. So Fulcrum will probably have some issues, but certainly when we've got Esri, where we've got geometries, I'm probably on uncertain. It is what we're seeing here would be very similar at the end of the day. What it comes down to is understanding its market requirements, data and setting up performance accordingly, and being able to put it into their system. So in this particular case, we've got it, but that's key. Use their technology and know that pretty much it's very, very good.
But that's a good quick touch on it quickly. I've had the 3 platforms that you're talking about over 7 years, 7 councils, I suppose. So, and again, this one I found to be inside GIS approval is the cheapest. And again, we're looking for something simple. When I explain, we're only a small council with a very tight budget. We actually don't have a GIS platform. Our base map's a list map. Probably some planning capability in there is what we've needed so far. But to explain the simple efficiencies we're talking about, often when it comes down to the granular level of civil guys on the ground delivering works, they don't have the visibility of the entire network. We're only got a relatively small network based on the numbers that I showed you, but it's been able to have the team think, okay, it's a rainy day, I'm going to go do guideposts or signage or pull drains, or if we've got a customer request, we can take the platform and then reactively inspect a request against other projects we've got there. We don't rotate and just grade a road one after the other. We want to make sure that we're sending resources to a road that has been prioritised as out of intervention, and obviously with logical completion with that sort of logistics set up and mobilisation with suitable equipment. We want to make sure we complete other works when we're there. And I always use the example, Daniel's team, they're heading to Gladstone today. They've got a customer request. They've got 2 large potholes. What has happened in the past, we've gone out there and you don't know what you don't know. So instead of that going out, they're having a look in that area and providing a week's worth of work based on, okay, look, I'm seeing there's the signs that were inspected. They're already ordered. they're sitting against a road name in the shed, guidepost. Look, you can take an excavator, you can dig out that section of unsealed road and reformulate it, but you've got, can you pull the drains there? You've got guideposts to replace. We've got a couple of tree limbs there as well. That type of stuff, that flexibility. Whether we go onto the map and look at the defects on one area, one town, or whether we look at it's winter, we know we can't take the heavy equipment out there, so the guys are going to pull drains. So we've listed in the notes and that sort of information. We could list there a tree's, 4.5 metres above the road. If it's less than that, can we access it with an elevator work platform? Can the guys grab it with a pole saw? That type of sort of flexibility is the efficiencies we're talking about. So, as well as to be able to filter at the back end, to go to an audit committee and say, okay, this is how many defects we've completed this month. This is how many we've got outstanding. That sort of visibility. I've had Fulcrum where it does a very good job of capturing data, but it'll help you on the back end of it. If you download that spreadsheet, that's one of the most complicated things you'll ever see. So yeah, that simple flexibility is what we're talking about.
Any reason why you're not using a database?
Selected more offline build capability or its dynamic form capability?
I would say network issues were most important. That is to capture information when you don't have signal. I think that's important. You can miss paper, but you cannot miss the digital information if you save it.
Or the offline?
Yes.
Michael, your history in other states.
Yep.
I know early conversations you and I had, you were drawing on your past experience and some of the impacts that you'd seen in other states where these inspection processes weren't run effectively. Could you give a bit more background about that sort of driver for you as to why you wanted to do that now within Dorset?
Yeah, I suppose we had simple things. I've had issues where, as I said, not the one officer inspecting assets, so you get that degree and no visibility over the network. As I said, we run a simple program. I don't necessarily need a platform to tell us. So we've got roads have got different hierarchy. So we've got different inspections. So we can choose to use the platform to inspect a hierarchy of the roads twice a year. Once a year, we can stay away from holidays. We can stay away from winter. If we're going to inspect bridges in the future, we want to make sure that those pylons are dry. So it's probably going to be summer. We don't want to inspect Bridport in the middle of Easter or Christmas because it's just bedlam. Those type of sort of scenarios, we can have that flexibility. I remember, as I said, in Victoria, legislation with the 2020 Local Government Act dictated we all needed a road plan, hence the reason, and it was publicly facing. So that's the reason why I suppose a lot of councils in other states went to this. I'm assuming Tassie, the same thing will happen. And I've had a few test cases where I've rang up and a customer said, okay, we've had a tyre blowout, we've had a car accident, and they're blaming the road, which it happens transparently. So as I said, we've gone back to attribute data to go, okay, this is where we inspected the road. No, we never found anything out of intervention. This is our budget. This is our risk scale. This is our evidence. We've spent the budget against a documented risk scale. We've had a legal case where we've had auditors sitting there saying, okay, other than those attributes, is your process better than your neighbours? Yes. So yeah, a lot of these things are used in defence, even down to the insurer, which is the same for all of us across local government, across Australia, saying that if you get an agreed intervention level not to fix a road, that is, if it's inside that intervention level, but there's such a thing as logical completion. So we don't drive past potholes if we've got equipment on board heading out doing that activity. So yeah, that flexibility, and again, proving to the audit committee that we are fixing the roads and what is out of intervention and within intervention. So as I said, we had a few auditors living on a few unsealed roads and seen my team do some extensive works in winter. Rain was meant to see then, it didn't, and yeah, hence the reason why we had a bit of evidence-based information. So when we used Fulcrum to see what was out of intervention, I think we had 1,000 jobs that were outside intervention and no visibility, because like most things, if you've got a plan that's got timeframes, you've got to look at what date you inspected and work out what the hierarchy, what the rectification time is. Then you've got to go back, and it's really difficult. But with something like this, the history becomes very, very important. And as I said, we do want to use the platform and just change the data sets moving forward. We've got mountain bike trails. We're lucky enough to work for a council that's got some of the best in the world. But we've got agreed intervention levels, whether it's, forgive me, I'm not a mountain biker, blue, green, black, double diamond, that type of stuff. And our job is to make sure against the budget is to ensure that they stay inside those intervention levels. Otherwise, I could be driving down there, riding down a bike, think I'm going to get this and get something totally different. So that's where we'll prioritise our budget. And we'll break the network of 130 kilometres of trail into equal portions, inspect those against the intervention and prioritise works and create that efficiency. So from there, we can, downloading an Excel seems quite simple. If we haven't got an app similar to the waste discussion, we can download an Excel I can hand, depending on how people want to receive information. I've got guys that you can tell them, I've got guys who need something printed, I've got guys that want the platform and they want to seek it out themselves. So just depending on what that staff member's like, we can schedule work accordingly like that. So, okay.
Just building on what you were saying, Michael, was
Yep.
Andrew in Adelaide on Friday.
Yep.
Like government in GIS, like government. First speaker was from a lawyer.
Yep.
Talking purely about the issues being able to maintain data just from a litigation point of view of council.
Yep.
Unless they can explicitly show that they're checking the maintenance on particularly play furniture, playground furniture, picnic furniture, that sort of thing, then they're obviously creating some development. So that's it's obviously an interesting take. Get someone outside our profession to reflect on the importance of being able to make sure it's the nature of our society.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And again, as I said, it's we've used inspection platforms, same platform, and loaded in condition assessments to be able to do seal condition assessments. We've used them for reactive flood damage capturing data. We've had a camera sitting on the front of the vehicle to be able to record condition assessment prior to doing the data, so you can come back and prove that segment was in good condition. Yeah, all that sort of stuff. So yeah. Yep. Okay. Another question? Thank you.
Thank you, Michael and Parnica, and the other speakers as well. While Rob's coming up to wrap up, we'll be contacting everybody who's attended either in person or virtually. We'd like to get your feedback. This is a start, not an end point for us. We want to make sure that we're hitting what you're wanting to see. We also want to get your input about what you would like to put forward to share with other customers. We are going to be running this on a regular basis, about every 6 months. The plan is typically with in-person and online, but we'll be looking to have people come along. So thank you again for everybody for attending either in person or virtually, and I'll hand over to Rob.
Really, I'd be reiterating what Andrew just said. So thanks again for everyone online and here. We're keen. This is our first time at this gig for many years, but we see it being far more interactive this time. So we're really interested in your input. So if you've got a story to tell, we're really keen to have you come up and tell us that story, not from us, but to the broader community out there. So that's where we see it. One thing I didn't do, and this is more for the Tasmanian people here today, the guys from NRA Land Tasmania are here. They've made the trip. A lot of you use their data. We're incredibly blessed in the state with the data sets that we've got access to. And certainly make yourself available to them, and they will as well, to find out what's coming online from Lands Tasmania. So I want to thank them for making the trip. But apart from that, everyone online, particularly thanks for making the efforts. The guys in WA would have had to get up pretty early to do this, so I really appreciate it. And yeah, again, we've got lunch on after this. Yeah, thanks, folks. And we'll just be interested in any suggestions that you've got. So thanks.